The story shaking civil service corridors today, OgWila Ntchito Boma awauza hizi kuti Azikhala Akudziwa. A phrase that's raising eyebrows, sparking debates, and leaving many wondering, what exactly does the government mean by this? Recently, the Malawi government announced a temporary suspension on recruitment and promotions within the civil service. According to a memo dated October 10, 2025, from Chief Secretary Justin Citing, this decision is tied to the rising wage bill, which has reportedly ballooned beyond sustainable limits. But the twist, and the reason for today's heated reactions, lies not just in the suspension itself, but in how it's being communicated. Government officials are said to have told certain civil servants that Azikhala Akudziwa, they must be known or recognized. Now, depending on who you ask, that phrase carries two meanings, one innocent, one deeply political. Some interpret it as encouragement for performance recognition. Others say it's an unspoken hint of patronage, loyalty, or favoritism. And that's where the fire starts. Today on Global Post News, we unpack the 7 layers of this story, from what the memo really means to how civil servants are reacting and what the political subtext might reveal about Malawi's governance right now. So let's go layer by layer, and trust me, by Fact 7, you'll see why this story is not just about jobs, but about power, loyalty, and perception. The drama begins with an internal memo, dated October 10, 2025, sent from Chief Secretary Justin Citing to executive secretaries across ministries and local government offices. In plain terms, the memo announces that all recruitment and promotion activities are to be suspended immediately. The stated reason? An increase in the civil service wage bill beyond acceptable levels, unsustainable under current economic pressures. Now, at first glance, that might sound like a standard administrative move, belt-tightening during a financial crunch. But when word spread across ministries, whispers began. Kuti, izi zikutanthauza chiyani? Is this really about the budget or something else? Because, let's be honest, Malawi's wage bill issue isn't new. Government after government has raised the same concern, often blaming inflation or donor shortfalls. But the language in this memo, particularly around recognition and awareness, has left many civil servants uneasy. Inside sources describe the tone as directive, not consultative. It wasn't just pause recruitment, it was pause and align. In other words, know your position before asking for anything. Critics say this memo might be more than an economic measure. It could be a political calibration, a test of loyalty wrapped in bureaucratic language. Meanwhile, government defenders insist it's purely financial, arguing that payroll management and recognition systems are meant to identify active workers, not loyalists. Whatever the truth, the result is the same: confusion, uncertainty, and an air of quiet tension across ministries. But if the memo caused ripples, what followed next created waves, public denials, statements, and one phrase everyone is still arguing about: sanagulizane nazo. Following the memo's release, a second message surfaced, this time from officials denying any political motivation. The phrase sanagulizane nazo, meaning they are not involved with it, quickly spread through offices and online forums. Civil servants, especially in education and local government sectors, began debating what exactly government was denying. Some interpreted it as a reassurance that the policy wasn't targeting any particular group or department. Others felt it was a defensive move, trying to control the narrative after public backlash. Let's put it this way. Malawi's public sector doesn't easily trust top-down decisions. Every policy is filtered through years of political history, where promotions sometimes followed party shifts rather than performance. So when officials say sanagulizane nazo,
it doesn't immediately calm anyone down. Many employees took to social media and WhatsApp groups, you know how it goes, sharing voice notes and screenshots of the memo, some joking, others fuming. One popular comment circulating read, "So if we're not part of it, why are our names frozen on the promotion list?" From a communication perspective, this phrase, "sanagwilizana nazo," may have been intended to de-escalate tensions, but it did the opposite. It created more speculation because denials without clarity tend to sound like coded admissions. Political commentators have called it a classic PR misfire, an attempt to downplay controversy that instead fueled more mistrust. But to understand why this message hits so hard, we need to look at history, because this isn't the first time recognition in Malawi civil service has carried invisible strings.
Malawi's civil service has always lived at the intersection of merit and politics. From the Banda era to the present, promotions have sometimes depended less on CVs and more on connections. During past administrations, especially in election years, we've seen rapid recruitments, acting appointments, and strategic transfers, moves that seemed to favor certain districts or party sympathizers. When new leadership comes in, the pattern often reverses. Clean house, reward allies. That's why this new memo hits a raw nerve. The phrase Azikhala Akudziwa reminds many of older policies that weren't written, but were felt, where being known by the right people mattered more than performance appraisals. Scholars from Chancellor College's governance department have previously described this phenomenon as administrative patronage, the quiet reward system that blurs the line between civil service neutrality and political loyalty. And let's not forget the economic irony here. Every time government freezes hiring, the wage bill rarely drops because ghost workers, overlapping contracts, and allowances keep draining funds. Yet new qualified graduates sit at home wondering why there's no space for them in the system. When these cycles repeat, people stop trusting the reason given. As one retired official put it, "Dikufuna timve zambiri, osatima woka." Every time they say it's temporary, it becomes permanent. So while this suspension is labeled fiscal prudence, many suspect it's an opportunity to restructure internal loyalty networks quietly. And if you think that's just historical paranoia, wait till you hear what experts say about how this decision could shape everyday governance right now. Economically, the government's justification isn't without merit. Malawi's wage bill, the total amount spent on salaries and benefits for public workers, has indeed grown sharply. According to the Ministry of Finance's 2025 mid-year report, over 58% of domestic revenue is now consumed by public sector salaries. That leaves less than half to fund healthcare, education, infrastructure, and debt repayments. In such a context, freezing recruitment and promotions sounds logical on paper, but in practice, it creates a domino effect: stagnation, low morale, and administrative paralysis. Public finance analysts have warned that wage bill management must go hand in hand with staff performance tracking systems. Otherwise, the same inefficiencies continue, only now under a hiring freeze. And this is where the phrase Azikhala Akudziwa becomes suspicious. If the intention were purely economic, there would be clear numeric targets, not ambiguous language about being recognized. Some say it's an internal way of filtering who stays active and visible under the freeze, essentially a visibility contest within bureaucracy. In some ministries, employees are reported being told to stay proactive, stay known, which many interpret as show alignment. Whether that's true or exaggerated, the communication gap is undeniable. As one local economist put it, fiscal discipline must never sound like favoritism. Because once perception sets in that being known determines survival, productivity drops. Fear replaces motivation. But economics aside, there's a deeper question here.
How does this play into governance, transparency, and trust in institutions? Let's go there. Governance thrives on clarity. When government actions are interpreted in multiple ways, trust erodes. And that's precisely what's happening here. The lack of detailed communication has left ministries guessing. Local government officers, district commissioners, and administrative clerks are unsure how to proceed with ongoing processes. Some say interviews were canceled midstream. Others claim shortlists were shelved without explanation. This isn't just an HR problem, it's a transparency issue. Good governance demands that major workforce policies be accompanied by publicly accessible guidelines. Yet, apart from the leaked memo, there's little clarity on duration, criteria for exceptions, or how performance will be evaluated during the freeze. Meanwhile, civil society organizations like CHRR and CDEP have called for government to publish a clear plan, including how recognition will be determined. Their concern is that opaque language opens doors for manipulation, from favoritism to hidden punishments. A few parliamentarians have also spoken out, urging oversight committees to review whether this move aligns with constitutional employment rights. Because, as they argue, temporary suspensions often extend indefinitely when political interests are at play. Transparency isn't just about honesty, it's about consistency. The more the government leaves interpretation open, the more conspiracy fills the gap. But governance isn't the only layer. This issue cuts straight to morale, motivation, and the everyday lives of those running Malawi's public services.
In offices from Zimba to Mangochi, morale has dropped. Employees whisper in corridors, uncertain about the future. Some who are due for promotions feel punished for no reason, while others quietly celebrate, saying, "At least nobody is taking my seat now." At the Ministry of Education, one teacher told our reporter, "Takala tukuyembekezera kukwezedwa kwa magrade atu for 2 years. Now this memo means we wait again." For many, this decision deepens existing frustrations, low pay, high workload, and constant policy changes. When you add mixed messaging about being known, it creates anxiety and division. Psychologists who study workplace behavior say perceived injustice is one of the fastest ways to kill motivation. Workers who feel decisions aren't merit-based disengage quietly, productivity falls, and eventually corruption finds an opening. On the flip side, there's also sympathy. Some civil servants understand the fiscal pressure the government faces, admitting that unchecked recruitment over recent years inflated costs unnecessarily. They call this freeze painful but necessary. Still, the question remains, necessary for whom? If ordinary officers bear the burden while higher positions remain insulated, resentment will grow. And here's where politics seeps back in. Local rumors suggest that recognition may influence who gets training slots, transfers, or allowances during the freeze. True or not, perception becomes reality once it spreads. Which brings us to the final and most important question: what happens next? What should Malawians watch out for as this story unfolds? Analysts predict this policy won't end quietly. The upcoming budget review session in Parliament will likely feature heated debates on whether this freeze should continue. If handled poorly, the situation could ignite broader calls for civil service reform, not just about payroll, but about fairness, transparency, and recruitment systems. Observers expect 3 possible outcomes. The government introduces a biometric workforce audit to clean up ghost workers and justify the freeze. Some sectors, like security or health, get exemptions under essential service categories. Or the phrase, Azikhala Akudziwa, might evolve into a formal recognition policy, forcing departments to rank performance openly. Either way, the political undertones will remain. As long as civil servants suspect that being known means being loyal to your political connections, trust will be hard to rebuild. To prevent that, governance experts urge open forums where employees can seek clarification directly from their PSS and directors. As one think tank wrote, in Malawi, silence is not stability. It's a breeding ground for rumor. This moment, they say, is a test of leadership. The government can either double down on opacity
or turn this crisis into an opportunity for reform and dialogue. Which leads us to our closing thoughts. What lessons should every Malawian, whether in public service or private sector, take from this episode? As we wrap up, one truth stands out. Policies are only as strong as the trust that supports them. The story of Ntchito Boma, Azikhala Akudziwa, isn't just about one memo. It's about the delicate balance between fiscal control and fair governance, between loyalty and merit. For the government, communication must be clear, transparent, and consistent. For civil servants, professionalism must stand taller than politics. And for the public, vigilance is key. Ask questions, demand updates, and don't let vague words pass as explanations. If you've watched this far, you're part of the informed community that believes news should empower, not just entertain. So subscribe to Global Pulse News, like this video, and share it with others who follow Malawi's governance issues closely. Tell us in the comments, do you believe this suspension is economic or political? Do you think being known means recognized for performance or connected to power? The debate is far from over, and your voice matters. This is Global Pulse News, bringing you sharp, balanced analysis straight from the heartbeat of Malawi. Until next time, stay informed, stay curious, and remember, sometimes the quietest policies carry the loudest consequences.